So we want to look at an application involving mixtures. So this says, Ahmed mixes 2 plant fertilizers. How much fertilizer with 15% nitrogen should be mixed with 2 ounces of fertilizer with 10% nitrogen to produce a fertilizer that is 14% nitrogen? So all of these mixture problems are going to be solved basically the same way, and it really doesn't matter if we're working with mixtures of fertilizers or mixtures of different amounts of money. I mean, really, percent problems are just mixture problems with different percents of interest. So the way that these mixture problems work is if we have 2 different kinds of mixtures, then we're going to have the amount of A times the percent of A. So in this case, the amount of A would be the amount of fertilizer with 15% nitrogen, and the percent of A would be 15%, or 0.15 as a decimal. So then we say plus the amount of the other mixture, so the amount of B times the percent of B. Well, in this case, the amount of B is 2 ounces, and the percent of B is 10%, or 0.10. So we have the amount of A times the percent of A, plus the amount of B times the percent of B, equals the total amount which is really just A plus B, times the total percent. And the total percent we want at the end is 14%. Now, going back to the problem, it says, Ahmed mixes 2 plant fertilizers. Then it says, how much fertilizer with 15%? So they don't tell us that. So let X equal the amount of 15% fertilizer. Now, using our formula, we just say the amount of A, well, that's the amount of 15% fertilizer, so that's X, times the percent of A. 15% is 0.15, plus the amount of B, that's our other percent of fertilizer, so there's 2 ounces of fertilizer with 10%, so the amount is 2, times the percent of B, well, that's 10%, so 0.10, equals. Now our formula says we want the total amount, which is A plus B. Well, if A is X and B is 2, that's 2. So we get X plus 2, that's our total amount. And then our total percent, we want to end up with the 14%, so 0.14. Now let's simplify this a bit. X times 0.15 is 0.15x, plus 2 times 0.10 is just going to be 0.20, or 0.2, equals. Now, we want to distribute this 0.14 to the x and the 2. So it doesn't matter if it's in back, we can still distribute it. And that's going to give us 0.14x plus 0.28. So now what we want to do is get our x's on the left-hand side. So we subtract 0.14x from both sides. That's going to give me 0.01x plus 0.2 equals 0.28. Now we want to get our constant on the right-hand side, so we subtract 0.2 from both sides. That gives me 0.01x equals 0.08. Now this means 0.01 times x, so we divide by 0.01 on both sides, and x equals 0.08 divided by 0.01 is just 8. So that's 8. Now if we go back to our let statement, it says let X equal the amount of 15% fertilizer. So X equals 8 ounces of 15% fertilizer. Now remember, we got the ounces because we were told Ahmed mixes 2 plant fertilizers. How much fertilizer with 15% nitrogen should be mixed with 2 ounces? So that's how we knew that our units were ounces. And that's our answer.